everybody who owns manufactured housing communities has at some point thought, oh my goodness, these things are selling for so much. These brokers want so much money for these communities. It's so hard to find one to buy. Why don't I build one? And they sort of think, hey, can I build one? Do the numbers make sense? Let's talk about that. The biggest component to building a brand new manufactured home community, of course, is the land. So you want land in a good location with diverse employment and things like jobs and grocery stores for your residents. You want to have population growth. And really what that comes down to is high demand land. Okay, so that's a good thing because you want people to want to move to your new community, but it's tough because that same land, you're competing with developers of single family housing communities, townhouse communities, even commercial centers like grocery anchored retail. These things basically can outbid you. All these developers can outbid you on the land because at the end of the day, when you have built your manufactured home community or you have built your retail center, which one has more value? It's going to be the retail center. So it's going to be very challenging to find land where you can make the numbers work for a manufactured housing community, but not get overbid on the land by a higher and better use. Okay, let's talk about the next piece, zoning. It's hard. It's really hard to get planners to approve new manufactured housing communities. Now, there are some areas like in Texas where zoning is not as strict compared to like where I am in North Carolina. So it is easier to find land to build manufactured housing communities in other areas. Here in North Carolina, it's very challenging to actually get a new manufactured home community zoned, particularly in the areas where you want to build. It would be easier to get them zoned where populations are declining and they're happy to have any revenue, but that's not where you want to be building a new community because once you build the new community, you have to infill it with residents. So it is a build it and they will come scenario. You need to be in a high demand area. Utilities. Ideally, you would have city water and city sewer. That is basically not going to happen in the area where I am, where you're going to find land that has city sewer and city water and could be zoned for a manufactured home community. But in other locations, perhaps you can find that with city water and city sewer. So that's ideal. If you do need to use like septic systems, for instance, for the sewer, what that's going to do is actually reduce the density of what you can build because septic systems require land and backup area for the drain field. And so instead of, let's imagine with a townhouse community, right? They're right beside each other. They are definitely on city water and city sewer. There's no land there to put in the septic system. Well, if you do need septic systems in your community, that's fine. You're just going to need more land for the same number of homes, which is going to drive up your per lot cost of the land. Now, let's say you have found this miracle land and it's in a great location, it has the right zoning, and it has the right utilities. Honestly, it would be hard to not just sell that land to somebody else for higher and better use, avoid the headache, the risk, and the time of building a brand new manufactured home community and just selling it to somebody else, even if that use is, commercial or single family or whatever it is. You could profit that way. But let's say you're very determined and you really like affordable housing and you want another manufactured home community. So you are going to move forward with that build. Cost is the next piece. So it's around $40,000 to $70,000 per lot to build, not including land value. Okay, so you're talking about you have streets, you have paving, you have your infrastructure, water, sewer lines, whatever, all this grading work. It costs about $40,000 to $70,000 all in. Let's be really, really optimistic and say, you know what, I can build a 50 lot community for $55,000 per lot, including the land. Okay, this is very, very optimistic. It would be very challenging to make that happen, but let's just say we did. Okay, so now we have this community and we're basically all in $55,000 per lot. To make any sort of profit, you would want to exit or sell or have value on the back end, so you've made some equity of at least, let's say, $70,000 per lot, right? So you have some buffer, you've done all this work for some reason to either build equity or profit. Okay, in order to value manufactured home communities, right, they're valued on the income they bring in, minus your expenses on some cap rate. Let's not get into that. A lot of times, especially with newer communities, we think of it as just a benchmark on per lot price. Okay, so let's say it's selling for $70,000 per lot. Well, in order to sell and be valued at $70,000 per lot, you're going to need a pretty good lot rent. Let's say at least $500 per month in lot rent. Now, in order for an owner to come in and buy a home from you, they own their home in your community and they're paying $500 each month for the land, basically to rent the land from you. Well, that needs to be a pretty good area. So we're kind of circling all the way back to, it's going to be really hard to find land that can make that work. Now, some people are doing this. Some people are building new manufactured home communities. How are they making it work? Presumably they are, because they're certainly talking about it. Well, the first is the zoning. So I've seen this happen a lot more in Texas. Texas tends to have more open zoning. Where I am, it's not that open of zoning. And so that's one piece. Number two, they're large communities, like 200 lots or more, which can really drive down your per lot expense. It would be really hard to build a small-ish community, let's say 30 or 50 lots, and keep those costs anywhere near $55,000 a lot, all in, because you have engineers, you have all this soil work, planning, fees, you have all these things that you have to spread out. And if you can only get 30 lots in your development versus 200, it's really going to impact your per lot costs and drive those up for the smaller communities. The other thing I've seen is in-house construction teams. So other community owners who are developing from scratch have brought in or built entire construction teams in-house that they can deploy for these new developments, which is obviously very helpful to bring down your labor costs. All right, so that's it. It's super challenging. Some people are doing it. Are we? No, we haven't. I would love to, but I have yet to see a case anywhere in the areas that we work, which is North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. I have yet to see anything that would make sense for a brand new development. I have even looked at communities that used to be manufactured home communities that have infrastructure in place, but in our area, that's septic systems. And those were failing, which is why the community was no longer there in the first place. So why in the world would I take risk on a failing infrastructure versus just going and buying land to develop from scratch if that's what I were looking to do? So I have yet to find a scenario where it makes sense, but it is something on my radar, and we certainly need more affordable housing. So if there are owners out there making it work, more power to them. It just isn't us, at least not yet.